Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very weighty Inside the Majors podcast. This week, it's all about the tons. We'll be catching up with two drivers who racked up their ton of Major Series starts, one who's about to, and also two guys that have a ton, not metric, of wins in the Major Series. In fact, more than any others ever. To be a little less cryptic, we'll have a chat with the newest members of the 100 Club, Scott Kukas and Jason Walat. Then, we'll be talking with the NASCAR round winners, Dallas Pataska and Christian Challiner, both returning to the podcast for a second time and who will be no strangers to anyone listening here. So, with all of that ahead of us, let's just get on with it and get the party started, shall we? The core values of the Major Series are preparation and participation. The most obvious demonstration of participation that we celebrate is when drivers compete in 100 Major Series races. And today we have two such members, two new members of the exclusive club of 100 races, Scott and Jason. To both of you, congratulations on making the 100 races mark, and thanks for coming on today for a chat.
Thank you.
Thanks. Jason, we'll start with you. Your first race with the Major Series was 2018. And essentially, you haven't missed a race since the beginning of that year. What's been the elements of the series that's made it such a focus for you in your sim racing?
I'd say generally the variety of races. Like, there's no series on Irish where you can do a Daytona 500, an F1 Grand Prix, the Trending Cup, sprint car race, or anything else you can do in the same season. Oh, and I also can't forget about the Indy 500, which is a legendary thing in this series.
And Scott, your start with the series was even longer ago, beginning with us in 2016. It's fair to say you've done most but not all races in each season. Tell us a bit about what attracts you to the Major Series races and also how your journey has gone through the last decade of racing with us.
I started basically when this was still just a Northwest and West Coast League and been hanging with it ever since. My team members, Dog Bear Racing, I enjoy racing with them. I enjoy spotting when I don't race. My first race at Bristol, they politely asked me to pull off the track and stop racing. I think I've gotten past that.
Jason, can you remember what it was that brought you to the Major Series to begin with?
Back then, I was de facto club captain for New Jersey and Michael Lett's World Cup of iRacing, and I thought a Major Series, and it had a club championship, and I decided to join it and try to get some club participation in New Jersey, and eventually that sort of spiraled into just me competing in the Major Series on my own, eventually finding UDOX, having to leave UDOX, going to Elite West for a few years, then going back to UDOX.
Your teams, UDOX for you, Jason, and Dog Bear, Scott, established Major Series teams. Have you been with them the whole time? And can you tell me a little about how you came to be part of those teams?
For me, I was started off when I first got into iRacing in a Northwest League, and a lot of the Dog Bear members raced on there. Hung out with them. They liked me. I liked them. They let me join. I've been having a good time with them ever since. I'm not one of the top racers. I'm in the background, but I love hanging out with the guys.
2018, I ran basically privateer. I could have got drafted, I think, to UDOX in 2019. I think was let go because of poor performance and poor commitment, either that same year or 2020, I forget. I then found my way to Elite West Racing, and I stayed with them until they folded, and I then asked to be let back into UDOX. They accepted me, and then I've pretty much been racing with them since. They're a good team with a lot of success and good setups that have helped me get better along the way.
Now, winning races in the Major Series is difficult, and I don't want to say this in a negative way, but neither of you have a win to date. But I'm sure you've both got stories of your closest that you've come to securing a win in the Major Series, if you'd like to share it.
My closest to winning would be, I think, either 23 or 24 Daytona 500. I was, if anyone remembers, in either the Atlantic or America's split one, I forget how the Major Series was divided back then. I was the dominant car, with my UDOX teammates helping me to lead at least 130 laps up until very late into the race. One of my teammates gets a disconnect. I get passed for the lead and end up not being able to pass him back. That was frustrating, especially since I've been close but missing out on Major Series Daytona 500 wins for a little bit, and yeah.
I can hear that it still hurts.
Yep.
And Scott, how about for you?
I would have to say it was one of the Daytona 500s. I think we came across the line 3 wide. I believe I ended up third, but hey, it was fun.
What would you say your specialty is when it comes to sim racing? Are you road, oval, dirt? What's the sort of series, or what racing series would you go to if you're just choosing to jump on to something in iRacing?
I've been racing the IndyCar series, but I actually prefer ovals. I'm not much of a road racer. I'll give it a try, but if I don't feel safe, I'll just pull off, which is more the reason I miss most of the races you see me missing.
I'd say either IndyCar or NASCAR, especially on the oval tracks.
Outside of Majors Series, what other racing do you get up to?
As of right now, the rest of my time on iRacing is torn between the IndyCar iRacing series, which just recently ended. I know I finished fourth on the P1 broadcast for Nashville, the NASCAR iRacing series, both fixed and open, and Formula A's Grand Prix Tour, as well as whatever special events or whatever the FTF series are doing. I've also done some races in the FTF Open Wheel and Cup series.
I race in the Western States Racing League hosted by Bob Petralmi. I also race on the Sunday Night Truck Series. It's recently departed from, I believe, the CMS people. Other than that, not much. I raced with Jason there for a couple races in the IndyCar series.
Outside of the sim world, have either of you ever done any real world racing or track days or things like that?
Myself, no, I have not. I've watched a lot, used to go to the races quite a lot, watch it on TV, but I've never done it myself.
Unless karting in the K1 Speed adult leagues counts, no.
Karting counts. It feels pretty intense when your butt's half an inch off the ground.
I'd have to agree with that.
In that case, I've done a bit of racing at my local K1 Speed go-karting track as part of their adult league. And for anyone who doesn't know, those adult leagues go into K1 Speed state championships, which then go on to national and world championships at their big outdoor track in California. And so basically, each individual K1 Speed Tracks league is like a regional qualifier. And I've competed in all the races I could for last year and this year when I wasn't interrupted by racing up until August when I stopped doing it after a scoring or kind of screwed me over.
Are there any racetracks near enough that you can attend any major racing series regularly?
We have Skagit Speedway, which hosts the World of Outlaws once a year. I have Evergreen Speedway in Monroe, which is a half-mile paved oval. SIR, Seattle International Raceway, which has a road course and a drag strip. So, yeah, we got it all over.
All I have in the local area is Dover and Pocono, unless you maybe want to count New Jersey Motorsports Park, but that's like hour-plus distance, and I don't think it hosts any real major races outside of ARCA or anything else.
Bringing it back to the 2025 Major Series, what are your thoughts on the last two rounds, Bathurst and Suzuka? Are you looking forward to them? Are you a bit scared by them? I know I'm scared by the Bathurst race. Yeah. What are you thinking going into the last two rounds?
I like both track car combos. I don't think I'll do very well in them, but I'm going to give it a heck of a try. I do like both of them.
Suzuka sounds fun, but I'm dreading Bathurst. Bathurst and the V8 Supercars has been my weakest combo in this series. I somehow almost always end up having to use my fastest pair, like, for every time it's been on the calendar.
I think that's going to be a pretty common theme for most of us come next weekend. With all your experience and what you've seen over the years, what would you like to see majors do to enhance the experience for you?
I honestly can't think of anything I would improve on. I think the series is really doing fine, and I'm not sure if I'd really object to any new moves they make in the future.
Selfishly, no dirt races at all. Just not my thing. I'm not overly fond of road courses, but I really do like the variety we get. So they're fun to race. And I would probably do away with the fast repair.
When looking back at all of the races that you've done, 100 now, what would be your favorite car track combination?
Anything that involves super speedways, Talladega and or Daytona with any of the cars, actually. I just enjoy the super speedways.
Oh, yeah, me too. Out of all the car track combos we've done in the majors, I think my favorite would be the Dallara R01 at Indianapolis we did in 2023, I think it was.
Gentlemen, it's been great to hear some of your thoughts. Thanks for coming on to give us a bit of time and have a chat on Inside the Majors today.
Thank you. It was fun.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, you know that guy who just before the green flag keys up his mic and asks, "Anybody got a setup?" Well, this is him. This is Adam, and hey, Adam needs some help. On the other hand, this guy over here, this is Steve. Steve is a solid racer and he knows his way around the garage. Steve's problem is time. With a job and a family, he can't find enough time to build competitive setups and to race as often as he likes. But as luck would have it, Steve knows a secret. He lets the Majors Garage crew chiefs do the setup work so he can focus on the racing. At majorsgarage.com, Steve can get setups for over 60 cars on the iRacing service. So no matter what series he wants to jump into, he is covered. Somebody, anybody, really should tell Adam. See you at the garage.
With us now, I have the winners from the latest round of the Major Series, the NASCAR Next Gen events at Watkins Glen, Charlotte Roval and Darlington. Now, why only 2 guests? That's because for the 3rd time this year, we had a driver take 2 wins on the same weekend, with Dallas winning both international and European races. Wasn't able to become the first ever triple winner, as Christian took the W for the Americas region, although Dallas did give it a real scare, leading 235 of the 367 laps. So congratulations to both of you on your victories, and thanks for joining us today on Inside the Majors.
Yeah, thank you. I think
Yeah,
Dallas
thanks
would
for
have
having
made it
us.
3 if it wasn't for that speeding penalty. And I wouldn't be here if he
I
had.
agree.
We'll get to that, yeah. Now, we'll go chronologically, I guess. Dallas, the international race, it was extremely tight, not just at the end, but throughout the entire race, even if it wasn't wheel-to-wheel racing. You chose to go a different strategy to Ewan, who was without doubt your main challenger for the race. Tell us, what was your thinking behind the earlier stop and the strategy play there for the Watkins race?
Yeah, mainly shout out to you, and he had a great pace, great car. He did a fantastic job all race. Same for Thomas at the end, but it really just came down to wanting to do something a little bit different. I really don't like running races where we sit there and run the same strategy and we're just on top of each other playing follow the leader the whole race. Getting off strategy a little bit opens the door for other things to come in and either help you or hurt you. Who knows? But it's, in my opinion, more exciting than sitting there running behind the guy or right in front of him the whole race. I just like the opportunity it has for strategy. And then obviously the caution late threw things off. So I really don't know if my strategy was going to work out or not, to be honest. That would have been interesting, but the caution obviously threw things for a loop and fortunately it worked out. But yeah, I think the international race was by far the most difficult. Sorry, Christian, but that's really just a shout out to those guys over in international and you and all of those guys there. I think I was the only guy running that round that wasn't there for points. So I appreciate them playing nice with me. I didn't want to cause any issues. So just happy to get through that, put on a good show and move on to the next round.
Yeah, so there ended up just the one safety car in international, and as you said, it was quite late in the race. But a couple did stay out, with Thomas making it a 3-way fight there at the end, and it was very difficult to pass. Was that a surprise to you that Thomas was able to get into the mix there, given the tyre advantage that you and Ewan had at the end?
Yeah, because of the tire advantage. Thomas is he knows what he's doing on a road course. So props to him. Obviously, he held off for a lot longer than I think either myself or Ewan expected. And that's really just down to his ability. But I thought the tire advantage would have been more significant. I thought we'd get the pass done within a lap or 2. I just didn't think he'd be able to hang on. If he can get past that point, it gets significantly harder, especially at Watkins Glen, and the tires will start to even out pretty quickly. Fortunately, we were able to finally work him over. We spotted a little bit of a gap in his driving and were able to exploit it. And here we are.
Yeah, take us through the penultimate lap incident, which is what sealed the results in the end.
Yeah, ultimately, I made a pass on the outside of turn 1, and he probably saw it or knew about it. He was defending it quite a bit because getting a lot of good runs. So I just decided I was getting a good run out of the last corner into turn 1. And I was showing my nose a lot, getting him to move around quite a bit and kind of move his entry point a little bit. And then ultimately on that last lap, I showed in, got him off his racing line, came back outside to fake like I was going to pass outside. And then as soon as I saw him wash up and go to the wall, I knew that I was going to have a lot of drive. Fortunately, he was a little bit nice with me. He probably could have forced himself back down a little bit more, but that would have been a little dicey at that point. But yeah, it was really just getting him to get off his line on the exit of 1 and then use the fresh tires and the nice compliance the car had over the curbing there to just get alongside him. And then even then, it wasn't over because going up the S's, just making sure we didn't get into each other and kept it clean. Didn't really get a great run, which brought Ewan back up. I probably could have defended a little bit better against Ewan into the bus stop, but fortunately it worked out okay with Thomas having his mishap, send it in too deep. And then from there, it was just bringing it home, hitting our marks. I didn't think Ewan was going to do anything too crazy. And he ultimately wasn't that close. He was there, but he wasn't. It would have been a bit of a send to try something. So it was a good race. Kept me honest. That's what it's all about.
Now, moving to the European race at Charlotte, that was a very different race. To put it bluntly, you kicked all our asses. Pole led every single lap and probably would have lapped the field if it hadn't have been for the safety car. Was that a boring race for you?
Not really, honestly. It honestly flew by. I remember getting to lap 109, whatever the last one was, and didn't take as long as I thought it was going to. But I guess that is easy for me to say when I was leading by that much. But no, honestly, we had done some work experimenting back at our team at the Roval a little bit for a league race or a different league race. And then in general, I was using this weekend as a way to work on some road package work with the Cup car, Gen 7, whatever you want to call it, for the future weeks and into next year. So I had a lot of fun. The car was honestly hooked up, so I can't complain. It only got better each set of tires I put on it. Obviously, the yellow that came out, jumping ahead a little bit, that did throw things off a little bit. It was not smooth sailing through that at all, because I thought if I pitted, they would stay out because they know I have the pace on straight up tires. So if they want to go for it, I think it was Vavrovsky and the other guy I don't know. I didn't think Trevor would do that. I don't know, though. These guys are running for points. Maybe they do that. I didn't want to take that chance, so I stayed out. So having old tires with their fresh tires, I wasn't really sure what was going to happen. Fortunately, having the track position is what mattered most, so I was able to get through that. But that was definitely probably the most dicey situation throughout the stint of that race. But I'm glad that there were yellows and whatnot. But having them tied to the random incident number that was chosen that only one person knows or whatever, I like that. It still ties it to something that's actually happening. It's not just out of thin air, there's a caution. But at the same time, it still adds a little bit of a element of strategy, especially in a race like that where you do have the leader with a big gap. It just got cut in half 75% of the way through the race. You don't know what's going to happen at that point.
Your pace on the used tyre was just incredible. Ed, Trevor and Michael seemed to be able to keep you in sight for a few laps at both the start and the restart, but then you just drove off into the distance. Was that a setup thing? Was it a driving style thing? Was it something that you'd focused on? Like, how did you actually manage to limit the pace drop off during the stints? Because it really was just incredible.
There's definitely an element of the setup to it for sure. There's setups available on majorsgarage.com that can get you very close to what I could run. I could have won that race on any of the setup. I could have won it on the free setup. It really just comes down to the driving. This is a combination that I really like. I first learned to enjoy it. I got to learn from guys like Christian here way back in the day. I remember he was running Pro Series with an H pattern, no clutch assist, like a madman. Probably still does if he could, if we're actually on an H pattern.
If we had it, I'd still use it. That's for sure.
I believe it. But yeah, I think it just comes down to, I've done a lot of laps in the Next Gen. I'm very comfortable with the car. If I may gloat a little bit, I would say I'm gearing up to try to make the best attempt at a pro run that I can. Who knows where that ends up? Maybe I make it, maybe I don't. It's tough. There's a lot of good people out there, but that's the idea behind it. So just a lot of laps in it, really. Compared to these guys, I'd say a lot of these guys came in and did quite well, because the gap to, like the Roval gap, as big as it was, they still did better than the other league that I ran. There's a lot of talent here in the major series, so you got to respect it. And the gap was big this week, but you go somewhere else and I'm struggling to hang on to top 5. So it's the beauty of the series.
Actually, I think the fact that in both international and European races that the yellow came out so late is a testament to the way that the majors races are run so clean. The number of incident points that were set for those races was based on officials and what we thought would be an average number of incidents. And yeah, the majors races were so much cleaner and run so much better. That's why the yellows took so much longer to come out, because we had actually anticipated there would be more than one in each race, but the number of X's was a lot lower. So there's a bit of insight for people that ran those races. So after taking both those first 2 wins, Dallas, did the pressure start to build? Were you thinking about the 3-peat for the weekend?
Yeah, kind of. I knew the hardest one was going to be Watkins Glen. If I got through the Watkins Glen race, I knew it was a good chance I'd go into Darlington with both wins. Just because I've done a lot of practice at the Roval. I knew pre-Q time, so I had a good idea where I'd stack up there. Not to say that something couldn't happen, because you just never know with a race, but pace-wise, it was there. So going into Darlington, yes, but I still didn't know. There's again, you come into Americas, you got Christian. I knew he was going to be on a good car. I have a pretty good source on that. And then the Sector 5 guys are always pretty strong on ovals. So that's always someone that they're going to keep you honest. And they did. They were really strong throughout the whole race. And I think there were some other guys in there too. I don't really know the entire team breakdown, but I knew it was going to be tough, but it's a long race. And if we had some long runs and whatnot, Darlington's one of my better tracks. Shout out to the guys back at Legacy Esports and Boyd Hogan. We've been doing a lot of work at Darlington recently with this recent build. We knew what we wanted from the car. The setup that I ran was built 2 months ago, maybe a month and a half ago. We had a pretty good idea of what we wanted from the car. It was just a matter of getting the track position. Unfortunately, I had Boyd on the box making some adjustments. It's unfortunate that I was being too aggressive on the pit lane speed because the adjustments we made on the last stop, we were moving. We were at the back of the entire field, not just lead lap cars, and I think we ended 4 seconds back from Christian. We were moving. It's unfortunate I gave that away because I don't think anyone's actually done a weekend sweep, which was ultimately my goal, but I'm still pretty happy with how it went. And the cars were absolutely amazing to drive across the entire weekend, and there was a lot of good racing, and I didn't wreck or anything. So the mistake I did make, I knew it was possible. I was intentionally being aggressive on that because it's something I was working on, my own driving. So I think it's legitimately the first speeding penalty I've had in the last probably 5 years. That's generally, I'm pretty conservative. So it's unfortunate to throw the race away like that, but there's some solace in the fact that I knew I had it in the bag.
Ultimately, it looked like it was on the three-peat for a big portion of that race, but it didn't happen with Christian getting up for the Darlington victory. And Christian, sorry, we haven't forgotten about you. Congrats on what was your 44th Major Series win up front early on. But you had plenty of time mixing things up in the middle of the field there before getting back to the front and ultimately the win at the end. Tell us a little bit how the race went from your perspective.
Yeah, so car was great. Thank you to whoever my source may be on that car. Yeah, it was really good. If I'm honest, yeah, I wasn't going to win that. I knew I wasn't, and I was fine with that. I pretty much went into the race not really expecting a whole lot. It's been a long time since I've really driven that car in particular, and especially at Darlington. So I didn't really have any expectations. Genuinely, I didn't. I'd probably done no more than a 20-lap run in practice, and pretty much every single one of them had ended up with an inside spin going into 3, and I wasn't optimistic about it. Didn't think it was going to be super great. Felt like I ran an okay qualifying lap. My teammate Robert Nash ran a much better one, and I think he started on the pole, maybe. So shout out to him for that, because he ran a really good lap. I was 7th or something like that, 6th maybe. Wasn't too bad, but I felt like I was more or less in an okay spot to start the race, and I was just going to try and figure it out as we went. I didn't start off too badly. I figured out pretty early on that there was 10 competitive cars, and I think maybe 5 or 6 cars that seemed like they could win the race. I decided that as long as I could be in that group and stay in that group throughout, then I think it would probably be okay, and I just have to try and out-execute everybody to hop ahead of them, because it was really hard to pass. You could pass, but you had to work someone over for probably 5 to 10 laps, depending on who it was, if they weren't going to give it to you. So, yeah, I knew that overtaking people on track was basically not going to happen. Maybe 1 or 2 competitive cars per run, perhaps, at most, on a really good day. So I just went, okay, I'll try and execute on strategy. And then that went wrong almost immediately, because I sped on pit road and went all the way to the back. So that kind of threw all that in the bin. But fortunately, it happened at a really good time, because it happened at that sort of the point in the race where everyone was still trying to figure everything out, so nobody was being too aggressive. There's a lot of time to make it back. I didn't have to be really pressing to drive forwards, that kind of thing. And even then, throughout that, it still seemingly got worse at first, because I went into turn 1, tried to drive underneath one of my old teammates, Josh Burt, and just completely nearly binned the car. It was completely on the lock stop, like almost 90 degrees sideways in the middle of 2, and I'm sat there thinking, this has gone really poorly. I was fully expecting to have to take the spare car and everything. And then after that, it went the opposite way. That was like the true bottom of the pit, really. That was kind of like, okay, well, It's not going to get worse than this. And then we had relatively long runs, and I was able to work my way forwards, and then got a bit lucky with other people speeding. My teammate Nash, he sped in the pits. He went to the back. Dowd sped in the pits. He went to the back. And then obviously right at the very end of the race, Dallas did. But just once I'd got back forwards, it was more a case of, okay, don't make those mistakes again. I'd learned quite a bit from getting through the pack. And the longer the race went on, the more competitive I felt. And to be honest, the better I felt the car got. To me, it felt like the car just got better and better throughout the race. The balance just really moved more and more towards me. And yeah, no doubt, if Dallas hadn't sped, then there's no way I was going to win. It seemed like everybody was trying to play their own hand, and it was really cool. I was talking to the guys when we were running it, and I was like, this is great. This is like a proper old school race. So it was really fun. I had a really good time. I think it's not really done justice by the idea of, there was no green flag pit stops. It's Darlington. It's really hard, right? I felt like everyone in the race was doing a great job, and there was nothing really silly going on at all. It just felt like a really good race. Everybody was really clean. And yeah, unfortunately, we never got any green flag stops because something happened. But I think on the whole, it's probably one of the best Darlington races I've done in terms of just how it ran. And yeah, it was really cool. And I totally got lucky at the end. But I also got unlucky the race prior. I'm okay with it. But definitely getting harder to get wins in this series. You say 44 wins, but I remember a point when I was getting like 8-9 wins this season, and now I think I'm on 3, and I'm like, wow, that feels like the 3 I got were pretty hard to get. So yeah, it's definitely getting tougher this series, but that's a good thing. It's not supposed to be easy.
So Dallas, I think the mistake you made was when you sped on pit lane, given that it was such a common, it seemed to be a common theme amongst the front runners for the race.
Yeah, no, I wish I would have been one of the first ones. It sounded like everyone up there made it. I was just the last one to do it. So it's unfortunate about that. But I made the error. I stand by it. It wouldn't happen again. I can tell you that much, but it's okay. I'll learn from it. I'm sure there'll be another Southern 500 in the majors in the near future. It's usually pretty much a regular event. So we'll be back. We'll redeem ourselves.
Christian, the championship gap to Nathan now 23 points. It's game on for the last 2 races now, isn't it?
Yes. I looked at that probably yesterday or the day before, and I think given that they're single car events, it's pretty much the case that I think if he wins one of the remaining 2, then he'll definitely win, I think is how it would work out, because I wouldn't be able to overtake him. But it's more or less the case that if I win both of them, then yeah, I'll win. But like I was saying a moment ago, it's really hard to do that now. So, yeah, it's definitely on. It's possible, but it's not going to be easy by any stretch. I think if I can run Bathurst and outscore him, hopefully win that, then, that'll put me in a good spot going into Japanese Grand Prix, which I think is Super Formula, right? Which
Right.
I'm not super excited about in terms of competitive wise. Like I think it'll be fun, but that's definitely moving into kind of my weaker area, which is not awesome. But at the same time, there's also the possibility that other guys who are really strong in those cars could help me out. So that's where I'm thinking if I can nail the Bathurst one and hopefully win that, then I get the advantage over him into the final round, and then that's where hopefully guys who are pretty good as single seaters can come forwards, and then maybe I don't have to win. I can just shadow Nathan, and that would be enough. But yeah, it's close. It's pretty much the case that whichever of us outscores the other. I know it sounds simple, but it really is. We just need to finish in front of each other for both of these rounds, and then either of us seals it. I'm surprised it's gotten as close as it has. There was a point earlier in the year where I don't want to say I'd written it off, but I was looking at it and thinking there's basically a possible gap to close.
Supercar at Bathurst is somewhat specialised. I suppose this is a question for both of you. We know the driving talent that you've got. Your majors series results prove that, as does things that you've done outside the majors as well. You're the best that we've ever seen. But with your work for iRacing, Christian, and also all the setup commitments that you've got, Dallas, do you actually have time to put into yourselves to improve and learn and train, if you like?
It's very difficult. It really is very difficult. I think probably the round that I had the most time for was weirdly the Homestead race. I was able to actually put a decent amount of time into that one, and I think that kind of paid off. I felt I was it was such a weird combination that like a car that people haven't really touched in ages, but kind of had a bit of a reputation for being pretty savage on restarts and that kind of thing. So I was really into it. It seemed really fun, and yeah, I was able to put a good bit of time into that, and it paid off. But usually, it's just not. It's not a lot. Like we're talking in hours, not days, when it comes to prepping for the league, which is unfortunate because I think we're now into the point where it probably does require more prep than that, especially for these specialized combinations. Like you say, Bathurst and the supercar it's pretty savage. It's and I think that we'll see that if there's any of the supercar specialists that come out, like we've seen before in this league, then you won't beat them. Like you just won't. It's such a tricky car to get a handle on, and those guys are so good at it. Yeah, I mean, I watched I didn't watch all of it. I fell asleep with 2 hours to go, roughly speaking, with the 1000. But when I was watching that and I was thinking, and it's raining and everything, like this is legitimately the hardest combination in like current motorsport. Like ban on. I feel like Bathurst on its own. I know everyone always says Nürburgring is really difficult and everything. Nürburgring is just really long. Yeah, there's places where the corners are really fierce and mistake is heavily punished at Nürburgring. There's no question. But the track is just long and it has a really good flow to it. And if you know the track, it pulls you around. So it's not really that. I don't want to say it's not difficult. It is. I imagine in reality it's very scary. So that probably adds to it as well. But fundamentally, the track always feels like it's helping you around. And I feel like Bathurst is the complete opposite. I feel like Bathurst is just like every corner is trying to murder you at all time. And if you slip up even the slightest bit, you're going to hit the wall. And it's probably going to be the end of your day. So the amount of concentration it requires to come across the top of the mat is just insane. And then to consider that they were doing it in the rain as well and in the supercar, it's just like, there's no way there's anything harder than the only way that could be more difficult is dark. That's like the only way it could be more difficult. But it's like super fun to do on here. And I don't know if there's chance of rain for our race, but it would be fun if there was. It'd be nice to have that possibility to replicate the real race. I think that would be cool.
Dallas, the question was for both of you in terms of how much time you actually get to spend on yourself in terms of learning and training. Do you get much of a chance to do things specifically for racing?
I mean, it depends. It kind of ebbs and flows. Like if there's a certain event, like majors I've pulled back on a little bit so I could focus more on oval stuff specifically. But like, for example, this weekend, I knew a few months ago that I was going to be pretty busy this weekend. I was kind of eyeing it for a while. I didn't exactly know I was going to do all 3 events, but it just so lined up that I already had a lot of work from my team and myself from other rounds that we could bring forward to these. So we didn't really have to work as much, but I don't know. I see a lot of it as just a ever evolving kind of learning, trying to get better. There's always a bigger fish. For as renowned as Christian is, I think he would agree. There's always somebody out there who's going to make us look like an amateur. There's always somebody. So there's always more to learn. There's always somewhere we can get better. So whatever time I can get, I'm always trying to think about what I can do better. A lot of it's not even at this point getting the laps. I got the laps. It's just the execution, the mental game, making the right calls. And time-wise, it can be difficult, but especially when it comes to leagues. But I also think leagues are very important. I know some people firsthand that are way faster than I am, but they don't ever race. And when they actually do race, you have an edge on them then. So I see league racing as kind of essential. That's why I like the major series. That's why I like one other series that I run. So, I mean, it's just kind of comes and goes depending on the week. You come around to the Daytona 500 week, that's a busy time. But yeah, I try to get in as much as I can when I can.
It's probably each other's greatest rivals greatest rival in the majors. And I'm sure with a huge amount of mutual respect as well. I'd love to hear from each of you what you think of each other, having spent so much time on track together over so many years now in the major series.
I think he's great, man. Like for years we were on a team together and he's always been very good at driving the car. I just was desperately unlucky a lot of times when we tried to run pro. I think looking back on it now, it's always the benefit of hindsight, right? Where you're like, man, if I'd have just known that, I could have helped a bit more. Maybe if we'd have had a bit more performance in these areas, and if I'd have just pushed a bit harder to get the trucks at the time where they needed to be, then he would have made it into pro and everything. But I think for the most part, like Dallas was just desperately unlucky with pro. Like the pace was never really a problem. It was just silly things happened in races like all the time that would just set him back. And I'm supposed to be impartial and everything, and I am. Like I don't help anyone in the series or whatnot, but I certainly would like to see Dallas get there because I think he's definitely deserving of it, and the skill is there for sure. Yeah, I always have a fun time racing him. I always have. We've raced a ton of times. We've never had any problems. We've very often, when we're doing a race like in majors, where it's a car that neither of us, I guess me, ever anymore racing competitively, really, but for him, not racing competitively, then we'll often share like what we're going to do, what we're running, and that kind of thing. Yeah, I don't recall us ever having any kind of negative interaction at any point. Like, genuinely, I don't think it's ever happened. I don't think we've ever had an incident on track.
No,
I don't think we've ever had an
so.
argument. I literally don't think there's ever anything bad's ever happened.
I think some of our best racing hasn't even been broadcasted either, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, like I just think of Lotus 79 at Silverstone the one year. That's been a minute now. I think it's been probably 5 years or so at least.
Yeah,
That was a fun
that was
race.
good fun. We had a lot of good races too. I remember that.
Yeah, we had a good time there. That was a dominating summer. But yeah, I would go the other way for Christian and say we had been pro for a number of years. I was the main guy helping there. We had a bunch of other guys around as well. I just had the most time. It's again with the hindsight, we never were able to get a win. But it's like I've been around in the series long enough helping other people, and I've been spotting actively the last couple of years for another guy. So he deserves to have that win, at least one. And I think if we had, like with what I know now and the group that I'm with now, if we had him in with our group currently, I think he'd be sitting at a multi-time Coke Series winner. But that's okay. I think everyone's happy with where they're at. iRacing seems to be in a good spot. And ultimately, Christian's the kind of guy that you want on that side. Real pro's pro. So can't really complain there. But yeah, I reference a lot of stuff that I learned from Christian. A lot of times when I'm working with people, they get discouraged. I like to bring out the fact that I had to watch Christian walk me every single night for 2 years before I could just keep up. It's a grind, and he's a badass. But I'm lucky enough to be able to learn and compete.
I look forward to seeing the first time you do actually have a run-in with each other on track. And yeah, we'll see how we'll definitely get you back on the podcast when that happens so that you can swear and virtually swing fists at each other.
I'm surprised it hasn't happened, but I guess to some extent, like a lot of the stuff that we're racing, I don't want this to come across the wrong way. I do obviously care about running in this series, and I do care about winning it. I really do. I think anyone who's in my Discord channel when the beginning of the year when we were running 87s at Daytona, and I had that incident near the end of the race where the guy came out of the pit lane, and we could debate whether it was a good merge or not or whatever, but fundamentally that kind of ended my race, and I was very angry about that. So yeah, like I totally care about winning races in the series, and winning a series I absolutely do, but it is different than say when we were in Coke. And I think that's probably part of the reason why we want to win, but at the same time, we know that it's not going to make or break things for us, I think. Whereas the difference with the wins in Coke is that they would to some degree. So I think if we were having a racing that hyper competitive scenario and we had an incident, yeah, we'd probably be
going
mad
down.
at each other. It's just different. And that's one of the sides of that, which I just don't miss at all. Like, I suppose in a bit of an odd position where, yeah, it has all worked out because I get to drive a lot without having to race a lot, which sounds weird, but I very much enjoy driving. Like, driving is the thing I like. I don't really enjoy racing that much because the best case scenario, right, is that you win, you have good battles with people, and everybody has a good time. But at the same time, it's always an adversarial situation, right? No one likes losing, so someone or many people are always unhappy after a race. And that's the part I don't like, and especially if there's contact. You can have people who are really good friends with each other and really will get quite angry at each other just because of something that happens in a race. And that's where I'm like, the racing side of it isn't that important to me. The driving is what I enjoy. The racing is just a consequence of the driving, which is probably a little bit weird to a lot of people who probably feel the other way.
The Bathurst 500 race will also bring up another milestone for you, Christian, actually. It'll be your 100th majors race. I'm not sure if you were aware that it was, but 44 wins and 77 top 5 finishes today. Would winning number 100 mean even more than the others, or given the championship battle you're in, that's the only thing that'll be on your mind?
It's one of those things where I was curious when 100 was coming up. I'd never actually looked into it, but I figured I was like, man, I've been here a long time. I feel like it should be soon. So that's interesting. I didn't know. I mean, that's a cool one to have. I think like the only sort of better race that it could be would be, I don't know, Lotus 49 at Nürburgring or something like that, because that's really my jam. But yeah, it would for sure. But it would matter, I think, a lot because of the context of the championship, I think, is really the thing. It would be cool, obviously, to win the 100th. But I think it's mostly a championship consideration. That if I am able to win that, then I'm no longer disadvantaged. Like, I won't be coming from behind for the final round. I think I'll be ahead at that point. Then not by much. It will definitely come down to whoever finishes ahead of the other in the last race. But that will really make it viable. Yeah, that'll be the big thing. But yeah, it's a cool matchup that it would all be like that. The 100th race when that also moving to the lead. So I guess there's a lot more on it than I thought there was.
We've spoken in past episodes about why you enjoy the major series that you've both been on before and the challenges of the mixed events and so forth. What would each of you like to see introduced to the majors in the future to further enhance your enjoyment of the series?
Honestly, I don't know if there is anything, at least not off the top of my head. I really like how it's ran. I like that there's different disciplines included. There's definitely like Super Formula, Japan. Like I'm not going to be running any more events this year, I don't think. But I like that's on the calendar because while I wouldn't run it ordinarily, it being on the calendar forces me to get out of my comfort zone. I got to go learn something, how to drive a little bit of a different car, different series. And I really think that's the beauty of the series and what makes it so valuable to me personally. And I would really just say more of that. Keep your crown jewels that we like that are your staple points of the season, but then keep exploring, bring out these different combinations, these different events, and let's stay away from dirt. Like I said, my biggest request is let's just stay off the dirt. Keep it on the asphalt or the concrete. We'll be all right. But that's about it for me.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm honest with you. I feel like the series has done a pretty good job of covering just about everything these days. I know for a long time I was against like certain types of events, and certainly how certain types of events were added in. It was always pretty weird to me that we would have something like a Pro 4 race at Crandon and it would be counted as an oval. I never really liked stuff like that. I think it was fine that those were like actual combinations you could have, and I think the last dirt round we did was that or similar. I definitely remember we were running a mod at Weed Sport, and I thought that was awesome. I think I flipped upside down at one point, but I never disliked the dirt rounds in the sense of I didn't think they were bad. I think they were just difficult because they were very different from what most of the drivers in the series were used to. And I remember there was one point where I was having a heated debate about this, and someone was like, "Do you just want it to be like IMSA or GC3 the whole time?" And I'm like, well, I'm sure that would actually help me out personally, but no, I actually really don't want that because that's well served in a lot of other places, right? That's not really what the league is about. Yeah, I'd like that we do interesting. I don't want to call them wacky combos because I don't think that the league goes out of its way to pick silly things. I think it picks just interesting things. It might sound crazy to run Lotus 49 Nürburgring, but I thought that was awesome. I had an amazing battle with Ross the whole time. Like, such a good race. And you just don't get that anywhere else. And when we ran Silver Crowns before, they were also really good races. Probably one of the favorite races ever was that Silver Crown race at Phoenix with Travis. That was so good. We had such a great battle. Yeah, I don't really have any suggestions, if I'm honest. Maybe we could change some of the format a bit, but I actually more mean just the consistency of the format would maybe be improved. And by that I mean, so like with Darlington, we had that as a race day qualifying, which I really liked, actually. I thought that was very good. I'm a big fan of the race day qualifying. I think that's really cool. I would like to do that for every event. I know it's probably not viable to do that for every event, but it was cool. It adds a lot of pressure on that kind of day, which I think is good. I've liked a lot of the things that we've done before with when we do the duels, so that's always contentious. Some people love them, some people hate them, but I like those as well because you have to race throughout the week and you do actually get some proper race practice. So, more kind of Jeopardy scenarios that make things feel more like a race week, I think, is my thing. I know we've done practice throughout the week, qualify throughout the week for a very long time, but it does feel a bit low Jeopardy because you do have the multiple attempts at qualifying and everything. I much prefer the one shot and also the race and the duels and stuff. So yeah, just more stuff like that. I like the multi race events as well. Please no TCR. I just can't do the front wheel drive stuff. But I think just as long as the series keeps coming with ideas that are just a little bit different every time. I think the big thing is just make sure the calendar doesn't go stale, right? I don't want to keep doing the same things over and over. Even if they were popular one year, I don't necessarily think that's a great reason to do it another year. So yeah, that it's just one of those things where everyone's always, how would you make it better? And people are always keen to criticize, but honestly, it's pretty good. It's why I keep racing it, because it's always fun. I always look at the calendar and I'm like, oh yeah, these are cool rounds.
Okay,
Sorry,
we'll put you in charge.
I don't really have any great things of like, yeah, I would do this to make it better because it's already pretty good.
That's, the fact that you guys keep coming back suggests that that's what you think anyway, right?
Yeah.
But okay, so we're putting you in charge for round 1 and round 2 next year. You always get to pick an event. What would you pick?
I'd say I like the classic. Doing like a. Oh, I know. I think we already did this one. Sebring 2 hours into the Daytona 500 Gen 4, the new Gen 4s.
Yeah, I also like the idea. I think the last time we ran it as a Predator. That's another one. Predator events are pretty cool. Like, the event's fun, but people always complain about class balance. So yeah, the Sebring would be cool. I think maybe not necessarily with current IMSA cars, but maybe classic IMSA cars, that could be good. I know when we did Daytona with the classic IMSA stuff, that was really fun. Sebring like that could be fun too. I agree with Dallas about Gen 4s. Daytona would be good. That'd probably be my pick, actually. I think I'd probably go for this. But I know that it's always a good idea to have some modern stuff. So maybe modern Sebring and Gen 4 for Daytona, which I know is a bit of a copy. I've copied in, but I really was thinking of Sebring. In terms of other races that you could do at the beginning of the season, the problem is there's really not that much stuff going on in reality at that point, right? Daytona is really the beginning, whether it be sports cars or ovals. So yeah, it's tough. It's a shame that we can't do like an off-road rally raid type thing. That would be cool, but we don't really have the cars or the tracks for that. Like a Dakar style event. Like, I think that'd be interesting. Just no idea how we'd do it.
Christian, last one for you. As an insider at iRacing, is there any little teasers you can give us on things that we can look forward to from the service in 2026, maybe?
No, sorry. Just can't do it. Yeah, like I like the job too much.
Stay subscribed.
So. Yeah, I will say that we're always trying to make better. Some projects take longer than others to come to fruition, but you can pretty much bet that if there's something out there that you're like, hey, I like this better, somebody internally is thinking about it or working on it at the time. Like, the amount of times where things have come up where people are like, oh, like, it'd be cool if we had this, and then you're sat there and you're thinking like, I don't know, 2 weeks from now, yeah, that'll be there. I appreciate that some people with the cars they like have to wait longer than others. Yeah, apologies for that, really. It's not for a lack of trying. There's only so many of us and we can only work on so many things at a time. But nothing is forgotten, I will say that. There's always somebody thinking about probably the class that you like, whether that be historics, whether that be modern cars, whether that be ovals, whether that be single-seaters. Someone's always either working on a project for it or trying to think and plan out a project. Yeah, no explicit teasers, I would say, from me, but yeah, thank you for being here, and I think it's looking pretty good. Certainly seems like we're making good progress. I know things are not perfect, we know things are not perfect, but it's moving all in the right direction, I feel.
Gents, it's an absolute pleasure and privilege to speak with you. The rest of the Major Series drivers look up to you both with admiration and awe at what you've achieved and just your raw speed and ability. Look, thanks for all you contribute to the series. And again, thanks again for your time today on Inside the Majors.
Yeah, no problem. Glad to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.